Hey guys, I'm back with another fresh new video this week. I'm Romeo from Market and Crypto and you are watching Crypto Rundowns. As always, we'll cover 3 hot topics in crypto this week and give you my takes on them. The top 3 news of this week's is at number 1, Grayscale verdict on the Bitcoin ETF. At number 2, we have got X, formerly known as Twitter, got a currency transmission license. So can we expect crypto transactions on Twitter? We'll talk about that. And last but not the least, the SEC fined Impact Theory for $6 million for selling NFTs which they're claiming to be unregistered securities. So without any further delay, let's get into it. Now let's talk about Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. What is it exactly? So basically the difference between a trust and an ETF is pretty simple. First of all, a trust is a closed-ended fund. That means there is a fixed number of shares in the trust and the new shares cannot be created or redeemed. The price of a trust share is determined by supply and demand, not necessarily by what the market price of the actual asset is. And another interesting thing is that a trust share can be bought and sold at a discount or at a premium, meaning that if the demand is low, you can buy an asset much lower than what its current market price is, and on the vice versa, if demands are higher, you can buy the same asset for a much higher price in regard to the market price of that asset. Now, how is ETFs different from this? First of all, ETF is an open-ended fund. This means that new shares can be created and redeemed at any time. You can anytime create new shares, you can anytime redeem the old shares. And the price of an ETF is generally very close to the price of the exact market value of that asset. That means there is no concept of a premium or a discounted price on ETFs. So why is an ETF much more attractive than a trust? Or let's say, why is it more regulatory complex to create an ETF than to create a trust? Basically, two things. First of all, an ETF is a much more flexible asset, and number two, it has got much higher, much broader investor scopes. That is exactly why Grayscale Bitcoin Trust has been trying to convert the trust into an ETF. So they filed an application to the SEC last year, but the SEC rejected it. Now the SEC has rejected a lot of similar Bitcoin ETF applications, or specifically spot Bitcoin applications. So why is that? Now I have already created a whole topic about BTC ETF. You can check out here. Let's break down exactly what happened. SEC rejected the applications on ground of asset surveillance. Now what is asset surveillance? Now if you want to create a spot Bitcoin ETF, you have to actually own a certain amount of Bitcoin against which you are issuing the ETF. Now that Bitcoin, that amount of Bitcoin has to be stored somewhere, so that the market regulators, which is essentially the SEC, Department of Justice, and other people who can actively monitor it. So you have to store it somewhere. Now in this case, BlackRock, Invesco, Fidelity, all of them have named Coinbase as their custodian. That means whatever Bitcoin they have or whatever amount of Bitcoin they will buy, they will essentially give Coinbase to store it. And the crypto regulators can surveil whatever they want to surveil through Coinbase. That is essentially the concept of asset surveillance in cases of ETFs. So what SEC is saying is pretty much in this case of Bitcoin is that Grayscale can somehow manipulate the market by undermining the asset surveillance process. Therefore, the SEC is rejecting Grayscale's application. Now, Grayscale is arguing that the SEC has already approved Bitcoin futures ETF, which is true. And the asset surveillance protocols between a Bitcoin futures ETF and a Bitcoin spots ETF are pretty much the same. So that's why they sued the SEC. So now the case was brought in front of a DC Circuit Court, where the judge actually agreed with Grayscale. They said that since SEC has already approved Bitcoin futures ETFs, they cannot legally refuse Grayscale on grounds of asset surveillance. Now, if you understand legal language, this is actually very strong support for Grayscale. That's why the market actually reacted so strongly and the price of Bitcoin shot up, I think around $700-800. So the question is, what's next? The SEC has got 45 days to appeal the decision. However, it is very unlikely that they will appeal the decision, given there is not really a lot of scope for the SEC to actually push back on this argument. Now, if they do, the case will probably be pushed to the Supreme Court of the USA, which will be resulting in a longer trial period. On the other hand, if the SEC does not appeal, the SEC will have to re-evaluate this application, and if the SEC cannot manage to find any other holes, they will most likely have to push it through. That means the first spot Bitcoin ETF will be approved. That's pretty much about the Grayscale Bitcoin ETF saga. We'll have to wait and see what news stories are developing from this. But as long as we're talking about Bitcoin ETFs, I want to just add another section here. A news recently broke that BlackRock has been acquiring major stakes in Bitcoin mining companies. Like BlackRock has invested over $400 million in the top 4 of the 5 biggest Bitcoin mining companies. Those are Riot, Marathon, Cypher, and Hut 8. That means if you had any suspicion that BlackRock isn't serious about Bitcoin, they very much are. And if one of the biggest money managers in the world is so interested in Bitcoin instead of fiat, I think you have got a decision to make. Okay, so now moving forward, let's talk about the X currency transmitter license. As of 28th August, Rhode Island's regulators have granted X, formerly known as Twitter, a currency transmitter license. So this is a license that is legally required for companies conducting financial activities on behalf of users related to sending and receiving money. That means if you are a platform that is letting other people send and receive money through your platform, you need this license. Now this is actually a license that is valid for both fiat and crypto transactions. So naturally, a lot of speculations are happening right now as to what Elon Musk's long-term plan is. As you all know, Musk wants to make X an everything app just like Alibaba in China. He is already building a stock exchange integrated with X. He is also highly interested in crypto, especially Dogecoin as we all know it. He was previously working on X.com, building a payments platform which then merged with PayPal and sold it to eBay for $1.2 billion, which essentially paved the roadway for SpaceX and Tesla to start. You can obviously see that where his interest is coming from. He is very passionate about this subject. So is crypto Twitter going to be a real thing? While we do not know the answer right now, I can say one thing with absolute certainty is that there is a huge market awaiting to use crypto on Twitter. Whether it be through a stock exchange where you can buy and sell crypto, whether be it a crypto exchange, decentralized or centralized, or basically paying creators in cryptocurrencies. There is a lot of potential for crypto on Twitter. So all I can say is that I am very bullish and I'm really looking forward to what comes next. Now let's talk about the third topic of the day. Tom Bilyeu's Impact Theory has been fined for $6 million by the SEC for selling unregistered securities, which is basically NFTs. So what happened there? Now if you know Impact Theory, they have got a brilliant podcast which I am a big fan of. They have huge plans in the media business. One of their plan is to basically become the next Disney in the next 70 years. So there is a lot to admire about Impact Theory. But here's exactly what happened. They issued a series of NFTs promising to offer some privileges back in 2021. Now the SEC charged Impact Theory for dealing in unregistered security, as Impact Theory explicitly promised the investors with financial gain as the company grows. So hear me out here. I think the SEC is kinda right, technically. The definition of a security is that it has to offer financial gain through an investment. But if your NFT has real use cases, then it will be treated as a commodity. Like for example, Gary Vee's VFriends. If you own a VFriends NFT, you get certain privileges like getting access to their yearly fests and stuff like that. So I am guessing Impact Theory wasn't providing any significant privileges, and therefore the SEC deemed it as security. So one thing to note here, Impact Theory did pay a fine and is collaborating to create a fair fund to reimburse all of the buyers. And also Tom Bilyeu, the CEO, said in a Twitter space that he didn't want to fight the decision because it would have cost a lot more money and time, and the outcome could have been worse. That means Impact Theory wasn't on solid ground on this case. They didn't really have any argument that would have moved the needle. So what lessons should businesses learn who are interested in integrating NFTs with their business model? First of all, do not associate NFTs as a way of making financial gains. Don't say, buy my NFT and you can sell it for a profit as my company grows. That is essentially offering securities. Instead, offer actual use cases that converts the NFT from a financial promise to an useful commodity. Now, obviously, should you be able to issue NFTs for any purposes whatsoever? Yeah, definitely you can. But the thing is, the rules and regulations around crypto and virtual assets aren't firm yet. So even if you wanted to register your NFT as a security with the SEC, it wouldn't have been possible because there are simply no rules. Now that is an unfair advantage that SEC is not shy of taking. So this is what they are doing. They are not creating any new laws for crypto and NFTs, and whatever you try to do with crypto and NFT, they charge you with unlawful activities. That is just messed up. Okay, so that's it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you watched it on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe. If you watched it on Twitter, I really appreciate a follow and repost. And that's about it. Have a good day.